welcome to Militant Geek Preparedness. So as you can tell by the thumbnail, I started to make this video outside. I couldn't make the video outside because the neighbor's dog was out back and it won't stop barking at me, so I couldn't make a video like that. So unfortunately, we are inside and I am making this video. We're going to talk about grid down cooking or off-grid cooking. And we had a power outage, fairly significant one. Back, I believe it was May 16th, we had a storm. The storm didn't actually hit the town, but we had really, really bad winds. And it took down a bunch of tree branches around town. In fact, I think it took down some trees around town as well. The power was out for a considerable amount of time. And so I had to make dog food. We make our own dog food. And I had no choice but to get on it. And because she's not going to wait very long, that's for sure. And so we make our own. We use ground turkey and rice and mixed vegetables, and it's something she really, really loves. But I couldn't cook it on the stove because our home is all electric. So I actually had to make her food on the stove that you're looking at right there. Now this here is a Coleman 413G. My landlord had given me this several years back. He said it was sitting on a shelf. And I believe he said it was sitting on the shelf for like 17 years and hasn't been touched, right? And so I thought, great, because these things are like tanks. These things will last forever if they're taken care of. And so he had given it to me, and the fuel that was in the tank, he said, was as old as it's been sitting on the shelf. And so I thought, I wonder if that fuel is still going to work. And sure enough, I had to work with it to get the pump to start pumping because it had sat for so long. But it indeed started pumping up. I pumped it up and it fired right up. It didn't give me any problems whatsoever. Fired right up on fuel that had been sitting in that tank for 17 years. So that's why I'm such a firm believer when it comes to camping gas or white gas, camping fuel, whatever you want to call it, those types of stoves and lanterns, because the fuel lasts forever. And as far as storing it, you can store it. It's not going. You don't have to worry about it going bad on you. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that these are much more efficient than, say, like a propane or a butane type of stove. So I want to talk about several things. I've got a few different stoves to show you, and I want to talk about a few different things with them. So let me go ahead and open this up. And what I'm going to do, let me get it opened up, and I will show you how you can tell the year, the date code, if you will, on these stoves. And we'll just go from there. So give me a moment. Let me get it all up and ready to go. And I need to grab a light so I can show you the date code on this. Okay, as I was saying, this particular stove is a 413G. And if my memory serves correct, it's been years since I've looked it up. But if my memory serves correct, they made these from like between 1965 and 1980, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look it up again to be absolutely positive. But we're going to pull out the tank. The tank stores inside of the unit here. And we're just going to fish it out of there real quick. And before I mount the tank, I'm going to show you where you can find the date code. And you're going to want to look right about there. It's kind of hard to shine the light and show you at the same time, but you want to look right there. And I know I've got a heck of a glare on it, so let me fix that glare. And you should be able to see a stamping on there, and you should see three numbers, a 7, 7, and a 1. So 2 7s and a 1, which means that this tank was manufactured in the 7th month of 1971, which means this tank was conceived about the same time that I was, because I was born in May of 1972. So, anywho, the later, or the newer models, I should say, I believe very shortly after this one was made, they started to stamp the housing as well with the date code. This unit, however, is just before they started doing that. So the housing itself, the stove itself, doesn't have a date stamp on it. But they typically were made, right around the same time, as long as you have the tank that came with the stove. And I am positive this is the tank that came with this stove. So let me get this mounted. That's all there is to it. Get the tank mounted there. And before I dive into showing you the lighting procedure and whatnot of the stove, I actually want to go into a little bit about spare parts you can have on hand so that you can repair these stoves. These stoves last forever. However, once in a while, like with anything else, parts wear out and they have to be replaced. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit before I get into lighting the stove, and I'll be right back to show you that. Okay, on the table here you can see my infamous Folgers containers. That's right, I've got 1.5 million of Folgers containers around here, and you've got about a 1 in a million chance of opening one that actually has coffee in it. So this is my Coleman parts as designated by the label that I put on there, and I want to show you real quick the extra parts that I do have on hand. I do have 2 funnel filters. I don't remember how I wound up with 2, but I marked new on one because I have never used this one, and the other one I didn't mark anything on because that way if the filter ever gets dirty enough or whatever that it doesn't want to drain into the tank, then I've got a spare one I can go to. So this is a pump kit, and fortunately all of my Coleman devices use the same pump, so that's incredible. But this is a new pump kit, so it's going to have the rubber seal on it. I'm going to show you the differences in that in a moment. But I do have a spare pump repair kit that again will work on my 413G, it'll work on my 533 dual fuel, and it will work on my Coleman, my lantern, which the number of it escapes me at the moment, 274, 275, something like that maybe. I'd have to look that up to be positive. So this is a package of spare mantles I have for the lantern. These are the Peerless ones that I showed in the, I did a video about light, and I was talking about how these are better mantles to use than the original Coleman mantles. They are much better, and so I've got plenty of those on hand. Several lifetime supply as long as they're taken care of. And then this is a spare generator for the 533 dual fuel stove here. So, and then I've got a manual in there that came with the lantern itself, which probably tells you exactly which one it is. It's the dual fuel lantern. I forget what they called the thing, but nonetheless, this isn't a video about lanterns. This is a video about cooking stoves. So, let me get this stuff all thrown back in there, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a difference in the pumps. I mentioned that there was a difference in pumps. I'm going to show you that because in my opinion, I believe that's an important thing to note. Okay, I'm going to show you the difference in the pumps in between the 2 stoves I have here. This is a 533 dual fuel stove right here. Of course, kept in the infamous Folgers container. And the date code on the bottom of here, this was made in the 4th month of 2019. I don't know if there's too much glare for you to see that. I'm trying to get it out of the glare. But you'll see a 04 stamp there and a 19 stamp there. So 4th month 2019 was when this particular unit was made. And so I'm going to get my trusty Leatherman here. And first we'll pull this one loose. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to use the tips. They're like the perfect size to get these loose. I guess I could face it toward you so you can see what I'm doing. There's little notches. The ones that have the little plastic keepers, there's little notches. And I just get my pliers in there and then give it a turn. I'm at an angle, so it's kind of hard for me to do that. Let me try that again. There we go. I got that loosened. And as far as the other one is concerned, let me get my long skinny screwdriver here. It's going to have the clip style keeper, which is simple enough. You just pull the clip loose, just like that, and the pump will come out. So I'm going to pull this pump out here. Going to open it up. I might have put my oh, I didn't put it back. Good deal. What's that? Might have put my screwdriver back a little too soon. So I should have the valve in there. This is the valve that you have to loosen when you want to pump it up. and then tighten it when you've got it pumped up. Little needle valve there. So always need to make sure that that's clean and that the seat, the valve seat for that is clean. So this is the pump, and I'm going to be honest, this is a leather cup pump. This is probably the same leather cup pump that was in this when it was manufactured in 1971. These things last super, super long. And typically all you have to do once in a while, it's got a little bitty hole there. Put a couple of drops of oil in that, and it keeps that leather nice and pliable, and it keeps that pump functioning fine. That is the old school way that they did it, and I wanted to show you that. Put that back in there. And I'm going to pull out the new style. Oops. I should have opened it up. Hopefully I pull it out with it. Is it not open enough? Might not be open enough. Should be by now. Ah, I did get it out. So see, same thing. You got a rod there that's got a point on it. That's going to be a needle valve there. And you want to make sure that your needle's clean and your valve seat's clean. However, if you notice, this is a little bit different. This has got a plastic, or a rubber I should say, a rubber cup on it. And in my opinion, while they certainly don't last as long, and in my opinion, they're not as good. To be really honest, I will probably swap this out for a leather cup. And that's going to be in a later video because I need to get some leather. I need to get some 16th inch leather. And I'm going to actually show you how you can make your own pump cups. But that will be in a later video because I don't have what I need to do that yet. So I wanted to show you the difference again. This is the rubber one, the newer ones, which I'm not a huge fan of. Just like I've gotten in that repair kit. It's got that exact same thing. However, the leather ones is how I like to roll. And they last really, really long. They're really reliable. So let me get these pumps inserted back in, and then I will be back and we'll start to talk about lighting the stove, or the process of lighting the stove. Okay, now we're going to work on lighting this stove. So what you didn't see off camera is I tried to light it previously, but first you have to pump it up. And because I had the pump out, and because I handled it and stuff like that, the pump was giving me a little bit of problems. Like I said, that cup really needs to be replaced, considering it's back in 1971. However, the pump still works fine. All I had to do was pull the cover off here and apply a little bit of oil inside of it. There is a little bitty a hole where you can apply the oil. However, my particular can of, I use 3-in-1 oil for that. My particular can of 3-in-1 oil doesn't have a small tip on it, so I had to remove that to get some in there. But first thing you got to do is you have to turn the knob counterclockwise. That way you open up that needle valve that I was showing you. And then there's a hole on the end of the pump, and you want to hold your thumb over the end of the hole when you pump it up. So I'm just going to give her some pumps here. And of course it wants to give me a little bit of a problem. There we go. Again, that needs to be replaced. And that's how you know when you need to replace them, is when they won't pump up very easy. So ignore all the noise. My apologies. But I should be getting about good enough to go here. Okay, I feel good with that. You want to make sure you close your valve, because that will shut off that needle valve so the air can't escape back out. So on these stoves, and I want to point this out, you have a lighting lever, what they call a lighting lever right here. Now that's not to be confused with the lanterns. The lanterns, the older ones, will have something very similar, but that's a little rod to clean out the generator. So this has the part that cleans out the generator. It's actually built into the knob, and I believe that's the way the newer lanterns are as well, including the lantern that I have. So if you happen to see a lever on your Coleman stove, that's to clean out the generator. If your generator starts to get a little dirty, you can wiggle it back and forth and get it cleaned out. However, on the stoves, it's called a lighting lever. And the way you want to light these stoves is you turn that up to start. Let me grab my lighter here, and we're gonna light this stove here. There we go. We got her lit, and you want to open her up good, and you want to just let it burn for a little bit, because what you're doing is you're warming that generator up, and that will allow the fuel to be pushed through the system a little bit more, so it will ignite a little bit easier. And you'll know because your flame will start to get a little more blue. And so we're going to let that go on just for, you do it for about a minute or so. And of course it all depends on your ambient temperature and all that stuff as well. So take all that stuff into consideration. But you can see how the yellow has went out of the flame now, and it's pretty much all blue now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to close this just a little bit, and we're going to turn this lighting lever down. Just like that. And there you go. That's all there is to it. That stove is lit. Now you notice there's a second burner on the stove, and over here on the side there's a little key thing, and if I open it up after I grab my lighter, if I open it up, that's how you light the other burner. And of course, you know, when you light the second burner, you're going to be taking some of the pressure away from the other burner, so you probably have to turn your valve open a little bit more. And there you go. You're cooking with gas, as they say, like literally. So these are, again, they're so dependable. I initially had intended on sanding this particular unit all down, getting it all cleaned up nice and clean. And I was actually going to repaint it camouflage, and I'm probably still going to do that, but clearly I haven't gotten around to do that. Let me go ahead and shut back off the second burner here. And I don't know if you could tell by appearance, I don't know, you probably couldn't by sound because I'm using a lapel microphone. And as you could tell, this flame went higher when I shut that flame off. So we're going to go ahead and shut this particular flame off as well. We'll let it run all of that out of there. And that's all there is to lighting one of the older dual burner stoves. There really isn't much to it. Pretty simple process, pretty straightforward. Again, I cannot stand behind these old stoves enough. Or same with the lanterns. The lanterns are great too. Coleman makes an incredible product, and they still make an incredible product. I don't believe that their new stuff is made quite as well as their old stuff, but then again, what is? And I still stand behind the new stuff. It works really well, really well. It's very reliable. And I'm going to show you next the 533 dual fuel stove. Let me let this thing get it all settled down. I'll probably let the camera charge for a little bit because I'm sure my battery's starting to get a little low on that. Recording in 4K really zaps the batteries out of a DJI Pocket 2. So let me let this get all burned out, and I'll get it back together and get it off the table. Let my camera charge up, and I'll see you back in a moment, and I will show you the 533 dual fuel stove. Okay, this is the Coleman dual fuel 533. I think they call it like a Sportsman or a Sportster stove or something like that. I love this little bitty stove. It's compact and it works every time like a charm. It's a great little stove. If you don't need to cook anything like in a large pot or anything, or you don't need more than one burner, this is absolutely a go-to stove. So anyway, it's like pretty much any other kind of a Coleman stove here. Well, that is the white gas stoves. This one does not have any type of light lever or lighting lever or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about that. And it's pretty simple. It's just like the other ones. You turn your knob, your pump knob, counterclockwise until you have it open. Hold your finger over the hole and then just pump. I'm not going to pump this one crazy because no need to. And you just close your valve back off. That way to lock that air inside the tank. And then grab your trusty lighter. Or maybe not so trusty lighter. Oops. I almost had it lit. Hang on. My lighter needs refilled, obviously. So when that happens, and your honest lighter will not light, you may have to dig for a backup lighter, which, of course, as always, the Militant Peanut XL will save the day. Look at that. I love that lighter. And let me get that turned up a little bit more there. And just like with the other stoves, you got to let the generator get heated up, because that is actually going to increase the pressure for the burner. And so it's important to let that generator get nice and warmed up. And you'll see, as you can see, it's kind of trying to kick the yellow flame out and be a more consistent blue flame. And it will absolutely do that once it gets that generator nice and warmed up. And then you're, once again, cooking with gas. I could not in any way recommend white gas stoves or camping fuel stoves and lanterns anymore. I mean, to me, they are just the way to go. Whether you're camping, whether you're looking for a grid down kind of a way to cook or what have you, I think it's an absolute incredible way to go. That's all there is to it with this. She's good to cook on. So, this is, again, if you don't have a big pot, there is no way I would put our 16-quart pot on this and try to cook with it as an example. There's no way I would even attempt to do something like that, because that's just way too big. It would be way too unstable. But like I said, if you've got a mess kit or a small pot or pan or something like that, then the 533 is an absolutely excellent choice. So go ahead and shut it off. And the next stove I will show you will use a different fuel than what these do. Okay, and the fuel for the next stove is wood. So this is, the brand is Ohuhu. That's the brand. Now these are still widely available on Amazon. They're $15.99. I think that is loads better than what, they want for like a solo stove or something like that, which I'm not quite so sure is worth what they want for a solo stove, to be honest. Because you essentially have the same thing here for, like 16 bucks. So, you have to put it together. This is a stove here. And, pretty simple and straightforward. So, these are alcohol tabs. These did not come with this stove. That came with a different stove that I had. So, and it's just a little bitty folding camping stove like you get in the camping section at Walmart. That's what the fuel tabs came out of. So, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You got your base here and your burn chamber. And of course, your grate that I already put in the bottom of there. And the way this stove works, I'll show you, is it will draw air through those holes in the bottom. And the stove itself has a double wall construction. And so it pulls that air up into the sides of the chamber. And if you look on the inside of the chamber at the top, you've got more holes. And what that will do is that will help gasify more or less the wood, and it produces a much cleaner, hotter heat. It's just a much better way than if you just used a regular can, for instance, with holes in the bottom of it. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It does come with a little grate if you're trying to grill a burger or something like that straight on it. Never used it. I don't think I would try doing that, to be honest. But really simple. These stoves, you just throw in your wood, and it's kind of better if you fill it up on these types of stoves. It's better if you completely fill it with your wood. And some of my wood's a little long, so we'll just hang with that right there. And then what you do on these particular stoves is I use like a cotton ball that's got Vaseline on it, and I'll just stick it on there and light it. And you just want to stick it on the top and light it, because as it starts to create heat, it will actually draw that down. So it's kind of weird. Normally you light fires at the bottom. In this particular case, you want to light fire from the top. So real quick, I want to go over, like I said, this one here, I've got it up over there, $16. My I don't know if I said something different, but $15.99 is currently what they want. Now, the Coleman dual fuel 533. There are some people on Amazon selling these. The cheapest one when I looked a while ago was $103. Coleman has it on their website for $109.99. So basically $110 on the Coleman site. And as far as the white gas dual burner stoves, they have one, the guide series on Coleman's website, for like $190, but it's unavailable. So I'm going to do some digging into this. I won't be getting back to you in this particular video, but I'm going to be doing some digging and maybe even some contacting of Coleman. And I'm going to ask them straight out if they are phasing out their white gas equipment, their stoves, their lanterns and stuff, because it's hard, at least on Amazon, to find any of those. And to be quite honest, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't phase it out, because to be honest, they're not real common anymore. People go with the propane, they go with the butane. I don't really see any value in that, because again, the fuel will last longer in a white gas stove than they will like a propane or a butane stove. And I know you don't have to worry, as far as I know, you don't have to worry about propane or butane going bad, as long as the canister it's in is staying sealed so it doesn't leak out. I don't know that they go bad or anything like that. I just like white gas a lot better. And I showed you again my fancy, not so fancy, Meritac Peanut XL lighter, and I love this lighter. Look, somebody's got to fill their lighter back up. I don't even buy Zippo fluid anymore, or Bronson fuel or anything like that. I use white gas in my wick lighters. It works just the same. There's no problem with it. Like I said, I think mine might be getting a little dry. It's definitely a little dry, and that's why I won't be using what I have in the tank. I guess I could show you real quick with the tank. I carry a tank of fuel with me. So these are pretty simple. It's just like a Zippo style lighter. You just pull out the core here. And I usually have flints in the bottom of it, so I don't want to dump those out. So just like what you're used to with a Zippo, you're going to have cotton on the inside. I'm going to open up this housing. Oh, wait, I think I'm opening up the bottom. I am. Now I'm getting white fuel on me. So let me try to open up the top here. There we go. And you know, every time I open this canister, I do that. Every single time. So and then you take the cap off here, just like that. And then you just put it in there. I don't know. It's not the fastest draining, but it will go. And you know, the one reason I do like this fuel canister is because it doesn't just flood out of there. So it's you can kind of control it a little bit. And then that's that. You just put it back together, and the lighter should light. I've got white fuel all over me now. White gas, I mean, all over me now. So I'm not going to try to light it while I light my hands on fire and everything else. So, and I need to close up this video real quick. So anyway, if you got any questions about these Coleman stoves or about the Ohuhu stove or anything like that, let me know. I'll put a link to the Ohuhu down in the description of the video, so that way you know how to find it easily. I would give you a link to the Colemans, but with the uncertainty of how long they're going to be around or where they're going to be, I don't want to give you a link that's not going to be any good. So I should be dry enough now. I won't ignite. There we go. That's how it should light. So I haven't put fuel in this thing in forever, so because I typically don't need to. So anyway, I am going to get out of here. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you got any questions, just ask. As always, shalom.